Okay, we're here to talk about the second inquiry's observation. I'm excited to share some of the things that I was able to observe and give you some feedback on what I saw.
I'm excited to hear.
Okay, so we'll start with the seating chart. One of the things you asked me to do when I came in to observe was to pay attention to your pattern around the classroom. So I put some X's by the people that you were able to get to actually have some kind of dialogue with. So from the beginning, you started your lesson in this area of the room towards the front, and you can tell by the X's that you're able to get almost all the way around the room.
Right.
Only one area that you never walked down was this one side here.
It's really tight.
Yeah, and I think your
backpacks.
teacher desk is here and the backpacks, but you still were able to speak to the students. You just didn't physically walk down this row.
Okay.
I made a little tally by the people that you called on by name.
Okay.
I wasn't able to gather data on every single person that you talked to during the lesson because there were so many great opportunities for them to get up and move around.
Right.
But these are people that you actually called by name. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 opportunities to have one-on-one conversations with students, whether that was them asking or answering a question that you directly answered, or them just giving some input during the lesson. One of the other things that you asked me to look at was some on-task behavior. Rather than note the on-task behavior, because there was so much of it, I just found a couple of things where students were maybe not on task.
Okay.
So again, not really a judgment thing, just some observation. So there was a young man over here in this area that just didn't seem as engaged as the rest of them. He did actually have work that he was doing.
This person or this person?
I think it was...
Because this is the one that never got up.
Oh, okay. So then, yeah, then
Maybe
you
it's
noticed him too then.
Yeah.
Okay. And then only one person over here, she was looking in a folder, but again, it could have been that she was looking for something that she needed. She just wasn't doing what everyone else was doing in the classroom.
Okay.
And then, so really, those were the only two people that I noticed that were off task at all.
Yeah.
And again, just not doing what you'd literally asked them to do.
Right.
All right, you did ask me to also look at or pay attention to your focus students. So I did that. Up here, this was the student that you self-selected. There weren't any opportunities that I could gather data on where you actually had a conversation with her or that she participated in the lesson. With your GATE student here, he was eager to offer input, and there were 2 times that I documented that you were actually able to talk with him during the lesson. Your EL student, it was really fun for me to watch him. One of the things you asked me to do was see if kids were literally helping each other, and boy, everybody at his table was involved in helping him.
Yeah, especially her.
Yes.
And I actually stopped by at one point and I listened to her talk to him, and it was really interesting. And then he helped out as well, correct the 2 of them. It was really cool to listen to that.
And it's so fun as a math teacher to hear them arguing about math.
Yeah.
And she's literally telling him, just do the work. If you do the work, you'll get the answer. And his comment to her was, I don't want to.
Not that he can't.
Yeah, he just said, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But she kept encouraging him.
Yeah.
She wasn't critical. She didn't make fun of him. She just kept encouraging him. And I think that's because you do that so well. You model that with them, that there was no teasing of him. There was no getting on his case. They all just kept encouraging him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Then he turned that right around after he said, I don't want to. He turned it around and said, so what is it then? So if I multiply, is this what you get? So he actually did do it.
Good.
And then showed it and shared it with them so they could figure out if he had done it right.
Yeah, I think there was a point, you might not have gotten it, but I think there was a point that I talked to her.
Okay.
Because I remember she gave me an answer of how to get 1% of a number.
Okay.
And she couldn't tell me why, whereas this GATE kid, he was able to tell me because you divide by 10. She couldn't tell me you divide by 100.
Okay.
And
so
I
she
knew,
was doing the move the decimal thing, she just couldn't articulate
and that's
why.
exactly why she's my selected student, because a lot of kids in that middle pack, they can move the decimal. They can move the decimal all over the place, but they don't know why.
Okay.
And so that's why I asked her why. She couldn't tell me, so then I called on this student here and said, you need to tell her. So he talked to her, and then she answered me on the board.
Good.
So I know there was at least one opportunity because I made sure to keep her in mind.
Okay, so I went ahead and took some notes, not so scripted like I normally do, because this is your second observation during the inquiry. So students were entering the room, you handed them a card, you asked them to glue that card in. I noticed that there was a change in the routine that they're normally used to, but they accepted it and just went with it.
Yeah.
Okay. All students were in attendance. You made a comment about that, and they were excited that everyone was actually there today. One of the things that we worked on even last year was different instructional strategies, and some of those were in place even today. You're still trying to use those.
Yeah.
I noticed the thumbs up if you understand, the raise your hand, the talk to your partner. All of those strategies were in that one lesson. There was a lot of stuff going on today. It worked good that you had them repeat what they were supposed to do. I was worried that you were going to go on after giving the directions, but you had them repeat to their neighbor what they were supposed to do. A pretty good mix of the class yes and the teach okay and then the partnering. It seems like that's really becoming comfortable for you, and it's flowing really well in your lesson.
Yeah, it is.
It really worked to get their attention. But they still had a lot of questions, even after you did the class yes, even after they did the partnering. They still had a lot of questions. So I'm wondering if they're just comfortable to ask you, or if they're a little insecure because they're wanting to please you to do it correctly.
I think some kids just, I think that's part of it, is that they look at every little thing, are we supposed to, and they want to do it all right. But even with whole brain teaching, it doesn't get everyone. Kids have learned throughout the course of the year with the whole brain teaching, the teach okay and the class yes and the hands and eyes. I have kids now that do hands and eyes, look at me when I have something important to say, and I can see in their eyes they have no idea that I'm even standing in front of them. You know, so I think that some kids, even though they're doing all the movements and it looks like they're engaged from the outside perspective, they really are not listening to what to do. And so when it comes time for me to pass things out, then they're asking their peers.
The only thing that I wrote to suggest to you is that sometimes during the lesson, your voice gets louder and louder, and I think they're missing some of your directions. So there were a couple times when I wished that you'd have just done the teach okay or the class yes, just to get them to stop, refocus, and then let them talk again. But I think it's really impressive that you had so many of them doing so many different things. And they seemed to love it. I mean, they were just like disappointed that they had to stop at the end. Okay, you used the mere words, and then they repeated that back to their partner. It's so fun to watch them like look at you and copy everything you're doing, and then they turn to their partner, and I can literally hear them saying exactly what you said. So it wasn't like the last time during the inquiry when they were pretending that they were talking. I could hear them, and they were talking about exactly what you had said.
Okay, good.
So one group had the bingo. You went ahead and reward them. All right, so you gave them another number. You went through the lesson, and then this was the interesting part when they all had to get up and move to find another group. You stood in the middle and you helped kind of facilitate the group, but I was really trying to listen to the conversations that they were having when they were trying to find a group, and the environment was so positive. It felt really good. There was nobody making fun of, oh my God, I don't want him in my group. You know, ooh, I don't want him in my group. Let's find another letter S, or let's find another T. And that speaks a lot to who you are and how you've presented what's fair and what's acceptable behavior in class, because you don't hear that everywhere. You don't hear that positive.
I don't even hear it in my first period.
We'll see. So, but you've demonstrated that. You've raised that bar for them and that expectation that they behave that way, and they did. And even if it's not like that in your first period all the time, it's still who you are, and that comes out in the kids. So don't give up on first period either. You gave the last exit cards. You gave them the number 85, And the truth booths, do you use those a lot for tests? Okay. Because they just seem to have appeared out of nowhere, and the kids just seem to be so comfortable with using
How to use them, yeah.
And so that's good. It created some privacy, some confidentiality, and that was, they couldn't cheat or they had to do their own work. So even though you gave them lots of opportunities to get help from their partner, from other people at their table group, there was also an opportunity for them to just be independent and show what they knew. Do you feel like you were able to accomplish what you set out to do today?
Yeah, I do. I expected certain things to go smoother, and I expected other things to be a lot harder. I expected when I passed out the cards and for them to get in groups, I expected it was gonna take them a long time to find groups, and it didn't.
I wrote down the time when it started and when they actually got involved, and I think it was 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was not a lot of instructional time wasted with them getting up and moving and all of that.
And I expected the exit cards to go a little quicker at the end.
Okay.
I expected everyone to be able to do it in about 7 or 8 minutes. And
So
I think
then
it took
that's
almost
okay.
15.
Maybe when we look at your results, you'll see the things that they're still struggling with, and that'll give you a next plan, next steps for you. Okay, you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
Thanks.